All right, hello. I was just watching some YouTube and I was watching 88 Finest and Porous, and man, he just keeps churning out great stuff. Um, anyway, I'm just gonna do a little decode on this number in his latest video. It's on Sesame Street, and we're looking at episode 2956. Episode 2956. Um, I believe this he did this video off the back um, of another video. He's got a link down here. Zenith of the Alpha was talking about this in his on his channel. This episode of Sesame Street, because what ends up happening here is they've got the twin towers. Let me go to this and show you, just in case you haven't. I'll link the video, but we've got the twin towers showing up, and they're playing the 2001 Space Odyssey theme. Okay, so there's this link to 2001 and obviously the big event of 2001 where the number 11 disappeared. And all the way through this, I don't even know what this guy's name over here. They keep coming and going, the twin towers, and so they keep disappearing. One minute they're there, one minute they're gone. Okay, we getting something? The reference is the disappearing number 11. Okay, and it disappeared on when 2001. So anyway, what I wanted to do though is I wanted to talk about this number. If I go back to the same spot, no, of course not. I want to talk about this number 2956, because on the surface you would think, I'm not even going to look at the full number. I'm not looking at 2,956 and what the properties of it is. I'm looking at several numbers that are contained within here. Okay. And so the first number that pops to me is the first three numbers, which is 295. 295, 29.5 days is a lunar cycle, the synodic lunar cycle of the new moon to full moon, what we see in the sky. Okay, so what we would see as what we would technically call a month, kind of, what we can actually observe. This is important, that we can actually observe this with our own two eyes, without needing a telescope, without needing anything special. Because I'm quite into this idea of um, all the clues that are embedded in reality are there for us to be able to observe at a very basic level. But anyway, that's the first thing. So we've got this moon connection, and obviously the monolith, the connection with the twin towers, and 2001 when they find the monolith on the moon. Okay, and again, ground zero happens to look like the excavations on the moon in 2001. Okay, in the film. So we got a nice moon reference there. Okay, the next number that's sticking out to me is 956, and I'm going to explain 956 here in a minute. I think I've talked about 956 before on my channel several months ago now. Can't remember what I was saying about it, but I will show you something interesting about 956, in terms of why this number here relates back to the Twin Towers, basically, why it relates back to the number 11, okay, and why it relates back to balance. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this 956 in a minute, and we're also going to talk about the number 29, because that's very important with the Twin Towers. And then finally, or I don't know which order we're going to do this in, but we're going to also talk about the number 56 as well, and how that relates to the Twin Towers, the number 11. So for this, we've got to go to my decode chart, and I use this in quite a lot of my decode. In fact, I pretty much use it all the time now, in my decodes. And for new people, this would be the video to go watch. It kind of explains a little bit about it. It probably needs to be updated now, this video, but that'll get you started on what's going on here with this chart, okay? But the quick and condensed version is these are numbers that we would, I guess, represent what we would see in nature, which is the golden ratio. Okay, everything in the nature is embedded with the golden ratio. Okay, the number 1.618 yada yada yada. That number is throughout the physical world. Okay, and it's a balanced number. Okay, I don't know what you would say about it, but it's a number that balances a cycle and also movement. Okay, so this is why we're thinking spirals all the time with that number. Okay, but what I've got here is a table that I compiled quite a while ago now, and what we've got is we've got the Fibonacci sequence, okay, is the first row here, and then we've got the Lucas numbers, which is a known thing, and obviously right at the top here is just a regular old number line, which is actually very interesting in its own right, but we're not going to talk about that today. And then all I did is I added on two more rows, a 3-row and a 5-row. So this is just Fibonacci started on the number 2, the number 3, and the number 5. Okay, and then the sequence is the same. Okay, you take the number which you add on the previous number. Yeah, you take the number you have and add back to the previous number, and then that generates, so this added to this generates this. 2 added to 1 generates 3. Okay, that's how that works, right? And so forth and so on. And each one of these does the same steps. And what you'll find is, as the further along you go, the closer you get to perfect balance, which is 1.618 yada yada, the golden ratio. You'll have a ratio between these two numbers, or these two numbers, or whatever two numbers you pick out in each individual row. You will get back to that. You'll be edging towards the golden ratio, and it doesn't take very long for it to do that. It only takes a few steps, and it's already getting close to the golden ratio. So it's interesting. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I started looking at patterns in this thing, okay, and something you notice straight away if you're a Back to the Future fan is this green line at the bottom is totals, and so 55 and 88 are totals for two columns, and they're two important columns which I've labeled the metaphysical and the physical. Okay, so what we've got is the first column starts with the number 5, and the reason why this is important is because it's halfway. It's half of 10. Okay, and when in nature we're dealing with cycles. Okay, and so 10 represents the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. Okay, so essentially what 10 is a 0, right? And then in physical nature as well, we've divided things very much into, or we use the number 12 very much in our physical, the way physical cycles work in the world. Okay, let's just leave it at that. And again, half of that is 6. Half of 12 is 6. So this is a halfway point, and this is important. The idea of a halfway point is important to do with balance. Okay, when we explore why everything exists, it's because of balance, right? So this is why this place that we're living in exists, is because of balance. If you look to nature, everything is about balance. Everything is about a cycle that forms an overall, it regulates itself, so that balance is a form of regulation. Okay, it keeps things from going out of control. All right, and just complete annihilation, basically. Anyway, so I think you've probably already noticed. So of course, Back to the Future people are probably like, "Oh, yeah, 55 and 88. This is interesting already." And So we're looking at two balanced numbers, okay, two balanced columns here that represent balance, right? And with, you know, the top of one column is 5 and the top of the other column is 6. Now 5 and 6 obviously add up to the number 11, okay? So already we're seeing, you know, these add up to the number 11, and if we were to just draw a box around these numbers, you'll be able to see now that these are the Twin Towers, okay? You know, notice the 33 there at the bottom of the physical. Notice 33 is encoded into the Twin Towers. Yeah. Obviously, the number 11 is encoded into the Twin Towers. And if we take the reduction of 18 here, that is obviously the number 9. Okay. So we can see again already when we're looking at the center of this whole table here, the center point. So on the opposite side of that 18 is obviously the 11. So obviously that's 9, 11. But we're looking at the whole center point of the table is right in between these two numbers. This is the important spot right here. 11, 18. And obviously the 18 reduces to a 9. So this, you know, 9, 11. There's other reasons why this, you know, why we'd use the number 9 here as well, but and 911 does show up in the table in several other different spots, and there's obviously some other references to that number along with the number 11. Okay, so but what's important anyway, what I'm trying to explain is in this table, here's our Twin Towers, here's our 911 right here, if you like. There's that 56. Well, here's the 29. Okay, the 29 is 11 plus 18 is 29. This is how the table works. So 11 plus 18 is 29. But this, the number 29, is a perfect combination of 11 and 18, because if you reduce 11 and 18 separately, yeah, 11 reduces to 2, 18 reduces to 9. So what you'll see there is that there's two individual numbers, okay, that remain individual. They've not been amalgamated or controlled. One number isn't controlling the other number, yet when combined they equal the same number, if you like. So this is pretty important, that because, and again this goes back to like what's going on in reality, is that the problem we have is that one side of reality right now, okay, the metaphysical side of reality is controlling the whole of reality. And unfortunately, the metaphysical side of reality has become corrupted. Okay, and that corruption, we would refer to the man-made world, and that corruption as I would refer to it as the matrix. Okay, and that is what is controlling us right now. Anyway, so what we've got here is this 29, right? The 29. So I just wanted to point that out. Notice that the number 7 tower, the other tower that fell down that day, is right here. And this is the tower that balances these two towers, okay? The Twin Towers. Okay, this number 7, obviously a very sort of holy number in terms of God. This number 7, Tower 7, this one actually remains the same number. Again, Tower 7 is all about balancing these two. Okay, I forgot my train of thought here on Tower 7. But anyway, let's get rid of some of this stuff a second, and let's carry on with. Let me show you the number 50. well, the number 956 now. So we've got the number 56 up here. We've taken care of it, kind of. Obviously, that tallies to 11. Obviously, we've taken care of the number 29 now. And we can see why that's so important, because of the 11, 18 central, this is the central balance point here. And actually, if I get rid of everything off of here a second, I can show you something. When this is this dot that I'm putting in, the central balance point of the table, if we work out from the center of the dot, because we want to work outwards, because the center of everything is balance, and then everything else is spinning off out of control, right? So we always want to go towards the center for balance, right? The first two, I'll just do it with this. The first two, actually let's do orange. The first two numbers that we come to when we work out from this dot here is a 1 and a 1. Okay? Those are the first two numbers going out from that line. The number 11 again. Yeah, the reason why the number 11 is so important is because it's the balance point between 10 and 12. And of course, the number 11 and 55 are so important, because if you go to the center of here, the number 55, 5.5, is halfway between 5 and 6. I know this is all very basic stuff, but 55 is a balanced number related to the Twin Towers. Not only does this tower actually add up to it in its own right, which is interesting, but 55 is this, is this point running through here, or at least at the top here. 55 is balance. This is why in Back to the Future, when you look at 1955 in Back to the Future, it's a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, everything, it's kind of harking back to a more perfect world, a more perfect version of the Matrix, an earlier version. Okay, anyway, this number 11, we can go and look at the number 11 column now on its own. Okay, so between 10 and 12 again, so it's a balancing, this is all about balance. If we stick a line in here, hang on a minute, let's get a line. Let's stick a line in between the number, because we're looking between the legs, yeah? Where's the Vesica Pisces? It's right between the legs. The Vesica Pisces is the place of balance. But what you want to do is you don't want to be stuck and go inside the Vesica Pisces and stay stuck inside there, because then you're in the womb. Then you're contained within the womb, and being within the matrix, within the womb, now you're at the mercy of that thing. Yeah, you've got the protection of the matrix, but unfortunately what happens is, as that thing corrupts, it's now controlling you. You can't escape. You're trapped inside. Okay, anyway, getting sidetracked. Let's check the numbers that are that we hit as we go down on this line, down through this line here, through the number 11, through between the legs here, if you like. So the first thing is we're hitting a number 9, okay, in the center. Okay, we're just looking at the number we're hitting in the center. Then we're hitting the number 5, and then we're hitting the number 6. Okay, so this is really interesting, because we're hitting 9, 5, and 6. Yeah, the end of those numbers with the 2956 episode number. Okay, 956 is to do with, the balance point. Okay, and this is what the twin, so this is the number 11 here, and so these are the Twin Towers, and here's the number 11, and so we're dealing with this point running down through here. So this is super duper interesting. All those numbers in that episode are all referencing back, yes, to the number 11, to the Twin Towers. And I think I'm about done with this video. Just for people that haven't seen my stuff before, and the importance of this number 11 again, let me just show you again with this number 11 here. Check out this. Yeah, here is our 254. You know, what do we have running up the side of the towers? Yeah, we have the trident, the 3 into 1. You know, running up the side. This number 3 is echoed on the side. Obviously, it's echoed with the number 33 as well. Yeah, so 311 is an important cross reference. 254, that's obviously the day of the year that it happened on, the 254th day of the year, leaving 111 days left. And what's interesting about this 11 column is, so we have that echo there as well with that reference. We also have the Queen's death date, and obviously the Queen's birthday. Her birthday is the 111th day of the year, 254 days left. So the reverse of, or I like to call it the twin date in the year for 9/11. Okay, we have her death date there. Okay, and we even have her funeral date here, the 19th of September. And no doubt what we have here is one full cycle, pretty much 364 days, 365 and a quarter. So we're very close to one full cycle, and number 11 is all about balancing. So it's interesting that our calendar is very close to 364, 365 days, and then we add that extra leap year in every 4 years. I think I'm about done there because I'm getting all waffly, and I don't think there was anything else that I really wanted to say about the whole thing. I will tell you one more thing, as it relates to the dollar bill, because the center point here, I'm going to talk about the 59. That's obviously, or 95 number again. Obviously, 59.95. You could rotate these numbers here and get the 59.95. Okay. And what's interesting about this, if you amalgamate that number 1, the center ones, to a single 1, that 11 in the center turns to a 1, you know, ace. You end up with this number, 118. And for 1118, it's a similar number as well, but if you half this, obviously it's 59. Okay, in the dollar bill, either side of Washington is a 59 on one side with leaves and berries, and a 59 on the other side with leaves and berries, each side of Washington's portrait. Okay, so this is important, okay, because what I'm thinking is this 59 is a good representation of each twin. And I really don't know what I want to say about it, actually. And that's just one more of those numbers that's in that number there. Okay. Again, where was I wanting to go with this? Again, if you do 1118 halved, it's just 559. Okay. Anyway, the 5959 thing. It is interesting. This is what I was going to say. It's what's interesting about this, and this idea of the twins and being born, right, is that it's echoed over and over again. And what I want to say about that is this 59, the idea of the number 59 could be potentially, like 5959. That's fine, okay? So this is what you actually, let's do it like this. Hang on a minute. So let's do it like this. It's even better. Let's do red. So we have one red 59. Okay, so that's one tower. And then the other tower, which would be blue, is a 59. I want to explain this. So this is one twin and this is the other twin. One's the physical side of yourself and the other's the metaphysical side, kind of what's going on upstairs there. So in the brain cavity. So these two things are, connected. Yeah. And when we come into the world, these two things are perfectly balanced. Okay. But something happens as we come into the world. And this is this going into the matrix, into the corrupt version of this 59. We go into a corrupt version. And the matrix isn't just an external metaphysical thing, it's also an internal thing as well. It's the false ego. We generate it ourselves as well. And then, of course, collectively it's projected out as the actual matrix. But if I change to green now, what actually happens is as you're born, there's a system, the legal system, that gives you an identity. Okay, it copies this physical identity here and writes the number down on, it writes a thing down on a piece of paper. And then what happens is, I guess because we don't know who we are, what we do is we look at this thing and we then assume this identity. We start living by the set of rules that governs this thing. Okay, unfortunately, so we're inside this green box now, acting as this number 59. Okay, and the problem is with that number 59 is that the legal system owns that thing and they make the rules up for it. So when you act as this number 59, you are, for want of a better term, screwed. You're stuck in the matrix. This system does not have any jurisdiction over this or this. It doesn't have any jurisdiction over either of these two things. That's an important thing to know. Okay. Anyway, the reason why I'm talking about the number 59 as this identity is because there are, I'm thinking about context of the actual number and context of what the number means. The problem is the number 59 in itself is not a bad number. It's not an evil number. Okay. Right? But the problem is when somebody copies a number from somewhere else and then uses it for their own purposes. Okay, I don't know how I'm explaining this right or not, but it's the same with all these numbers in the table. The number 33, everybody just goes nuts when somebody mentions the number 33, and it's all, oh. Again, any of these numbers can have any dual meaning. Here we go, here right at the center of the table. I like to do this diagonal numbers as well. 187. Yeah, the murder, death, kill number. 187. Again, it's not necessarily only tied to that. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that it doesn't necessarily mean that something's a bad thing when we're looking at individual numbers. What we have to pay attention to is the context of what's going on. Okay, I don't know if that made sense to people, but this thing here, this birth certificate, the birth certificate, okay, that is not you. That birth certificate, it's some stats they've written down on a piece of paper, but the birth certificate itself is not you. It's important to remember. There's a reason why, you have to explore all these questions. There's a reason why they don't give you the original birth certificate. They only give you a copy. It's because the entity that maintains possession of something has jurisdiction over that thing. Yeah, the legal system does not have possession over your internal thoughts here, the metaphysical version of yourself, or the physical version of yourself. It has no jurisdiction over you. That's very important to know when dealing with a-holes that think that the legal system has that jurisdiction. It's very important to know who you are. Anyway, I'm going to cut it off here because I'm just rambling. I've had enough anyway. Probably everybody's had enough of listening to this anyway. So I just thought that was interesting. I thought we'd just talk about those numbers there. Okay, I'll catch you on another one here soon. Cheers. All right, bye.